Hey, I'm Pat, and in this video I will be going over dev products in Roblox Studio, how to prompt a player to buy a dev product, and how to, handle that dev product and, give the player the reward or whatever for buying it. Usually, like a dev product, the way it kind of works is a player can buy it kind of as many times as they want, and it has a set ID and an amount of Robux that it would cost to purchase it. So for something like if you had a currency in your game that you wanted to be maybe either like only able to buy 3 Robux, like a premium currency like gems or something, right? Or you have like a normal currency that you can get in game and you want to be able to like add on that you can buy more 3 Robux. That's something that dev product is like good for, because you can purchase it multiple times without any issues. Whereas like a game pass, you can buy it once and then you have it and that's pretty much it. So you can't like handle things like that through a game pass, right? So dev product isn't exactly like a public thing that you see on like a game page, right? It's kind of like a thing in the background that is handled through scripts only. And in order for you to make one, you had to publish a game to Roblox. So I'm gonna do that. Let's call this dev product test. Turn off team create because team create's garbage. And we'll save, and successfully saved. And now if we go to home and game settings, what we can now do is we can go to monetization right here. And there's a few things, badges, I'm gonna go over that in the future, paid access, private servers. But you can see there's developer products right here. So we can go ahead and click create here. And you can see it defaults to a price of 1. And it has a default name and a ID, right? And we can edit it here. These can have icons, I believe. I don't remember how to like give it an icon through Studio, but whatever. So now we have a product. If you go to monetization, we go back here because now that we saved it, we get an ID. So we're gonna need this ID. Can I copy it here or no? Copy ID to clipboard. So you can just click the 3 dots and it lets you copy it. All right. So we'll copy our ID. And now what we can do is, I believe you can either handle the product purchase or the prompting of the product on either the server or the client. Usually you're going to want to do it on the client because most of the time the player's going to be like pressing a GUI button to like enable the purchase, something like that. So I'm going to make a screen GUI and we'll just call this I don't know, I won't even name it. It's not like a big thing. So I'll give it a text label, and what this text label will do is when they click it, it'll just prompt the purchase. Obviously, that's kind of the idea we're going for here, right? So I'm just going to change this to scale, even though it's not really necessary since it's kind of like a test script, but it's kind of like a good practice to use scale, just to as an example even. So I'm going to put a local script inside of our text label, and this is going to be what handles our product purchase prompting. As far as like handling what the product actually like gives the player and things like that, that should all be handled on the server. I'll go over that in a few minutes. It's not very complicated, but what we're gonna need is marketplace service, because that is the primary thing for things like purchases, things like game passes and dev products, right? So we're gonna need marketplace service. And then we're going to also need players, because we're going to need a local player, because we need to know which player to prompt the purchase for, right? So then I'll just get the local player. Now, local player only works in local scripts, right? So since it's a GUI, we have a local script for the player. And the next thing we're going to need is the ID of our product that we are going to be prompting them, which is the ID I just copied from the thing or whatever, right? And this ID isn't like something you really need to hide or anything like that. It's not like secure or anything. Like, it's not like vulnerable to anything. It's not important, right? Because it can only really be used inside of your game. And now what we're going to do is listen for the script's parent to be clicked. Oh wait, this is a text label. I'm stupid. We need a text button, not a text label. I'll just move the script inside the text button. We'll get rid of this label. And I'm not even going to bother scaling it this time because I'm too lazy now. But it's alright. So script.parent, that mouse button one click, which is the event that's fired when the left mouse button is pressed down on the button that we referenced here, right? This is the button, and we're listening for it to be clicked, and we're connecting it to this function to run the code inside the function. And it's not really complicated. All we have to do is just call the product or prompt product purchase method of marketplace service. So we are marketplace service, right? And then we just do prompt product purchase, and even in here it tells you player instanced and product ID, and that's really it. You can do like these other things, but I don't think they're necessary really. You only need like 2 arguments, which would be the player instance, so it's not the player ID or the player's name, it has to be the player, which is the player instance, which is usually a child of the players. So you get it through local player and local scripts, but there's multiple different ways to get in a server script depending on what you're doing. And then you just get the product ID. Product. I can't spell. Product, I think. Alright, seems good enough to me. So now we'll go ahead and test it. And when we press the button, it should give us like the GUI that you're probably most comfortable with, the buy item, whatever. You know, it'll show the icon, it'll give you the name. You can either cancel or you can confirm it. And you can see down here, this is a test purchase. Your account will not be charged. So the thing is, when you're doing purchases in Studio, it won't actually like take Robux off you. It doesn't matter how much Robux you have. You can always like test the purchase just to like see if it works or not. And this is very important because obviously, unless you have like 2 billion Robux, you don't want to be like sitting there like testing multiple times with multiple purchases trying to see if it works. So you don't have to worry about like losing money or anything, right? So you buy it, it says you purchased developer product 1, whatever. And obviously we don't have anything for when the product is actually purchased, so we're gonna go ahead and do something for that. As far as what I'm gonna do for that, what we can do is, just for like an example, I can make like a tool real quick. So I'll make a part, and I'm not gonna actually make it do anything, but it's just gonna be a typical tool, and we can give it to the player once the player buys the product, right? And we're gonna store our tool in replicated storage. We could theoretically put in server storage, so I guess I'm just gonna do that because the GUI or the client doesn't really need to see the tool unless it's like under the player or something. So now what we need is a server script, and this is going to be our server handler. So what I'm going to call this is dev product server handler, because we're handling the dev product on the server and this side of the script, so it's kind of like a decent name for it, I guess, right? So the next thing we're going to do is we're obviously going to need marketplace service. So I'm actually just going to copy these two. I don't even know. I do need players for this. So we'll get players and we'll get marketplace service. So now what we need to do is we need to process the receipt. So this is actually like a callback function, I'm pretty sure. So the way this works is it's not actually like an event, it's like a callback function. So pretty much what happens is you like bind the function to like the receipt. So like when the receipt happens, like, you know what like a receipt is, right? Like you get it after you purchase something, right? So once the purchase happens, it'll fire the function. It's kind of like an event, but it's like weird how they handled it. I don't know why they even do it. So what we do is we reference marketplace service, and then we do dot prompt or what is it? Process receipt. And you can see here it actually is like the little function icon because it's actually like a callback. And what we'll do is we do it equal to a function, because that's how you use a callback. You say equal to a function. You don't connect it because it's not an event, right? It's a little weird like that, but that's just how it is. And then it only has one parameter, which is the info, receipt info, which is like a I can't spell. Receipt. I can't even remember how receipt is spelled. Oh wait, it's literally right there. So what receipt info is that's just gonna hold, it's kind of like a table, and it has like, or you can call it an instance, I guess, and it has a bunch of properties like the player's ID and all the things like that. So what we can do is we can get our player's user ID by receipt info and dot player ID. And then we can get the product ID, which is the ID of the product that was purchased. This is very important because obviously there's going to be multiple different products in your game, so you need a way to be able to differentiate between them. So the way that you do that is obviously through the ID. So this one script could handle theoretically all of your dev products for a game. Say if you had like a currency system where you want the player to buy extra cash through dev products, you could have a table up at the top here. Inside that table you could store all the dev products, or the IDs for the dev products, right? So the key or the index of each element in your table could be the ID. So the key would be the ID, and then the value would be how much cash you would give them, right? So like for one ID you would set like the ID and then equals 500 to give the player 500 cash for that ID. And then you could just like index your table with the ID, and that would tell you how much to increase your cash by, which makes it really simple and all handled inside one script, so it's really clean, right? So now what we're going to do is we're going to get our player, and the player service actually has a useful function called getPlayer by user ID. GetPlayer by user ID. And since we only have the player's user ID, that's like the only way we can really get the player inside of here. So that's how we're going to do it. Make sure you use an equal sign here. I always forget that for some reason. And now what we need to do is check to make sure there's a player, because this will actually fire in any server. So even if the player buys the product inside of this server, like say there's two servers, right? The player buys the product in one server, and another server, the process receipt function will still be called in like a different server. And obviously the player is not in that server, so this function will actually return nil because there's no player in that server with this matching user ID. So the player will be nil. So if you try and continue without, you know, player being like an actual value, then your script will obviously just error. So it's very important here to check that player is not nil. You can just do if player then, or you can also do if player not equals nil, or you can do it like this, not player equals nil. But you know, that's kind of messy. It's a lot easier to just do if player. So that's what I do, right? So now what we're gonna do is do a p call. So the reason for a p call here is because there's a chance of this failing, and Roblox themselves needs to know if the product or the receipt was processed correctly, right? Because there's a chance of it not always processing correctly inside your script, and in that case obviously Roblox will want to try again to make sure that the player gets the reward that they paid Robux for, right? Because it's kind of serious that, you know, they paid Robux, so if it fails you need to make sure that it keeps trying again to give the player their proper reward, or else it's just gonna be like a bunch of 12-year-olds kind of pissed off that your script doesn't work, right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna p call wrap a function, which is really all you can do with a function, right? And what we're going to do inside of our function is we're just going to print product purchase, I guess, or we could print the ID of the product, and we can say it was purchased, right? And what we'll do is we'll check to see if it was successful, which is the first variable here, right? This is actually called a tuple because pcall returns two variables. It returns success, and it also returns result. Say if this function returns something, it would be stored inside a result. If it doesn't return something, I believe the error would be stored inside a result. So So if there is a success, so success will only be true if the function here does not error. Then what we'll need to do is return enum.product product purchase decision dot purchase granted. And the reason for this is it tells Roblox that the transaction was successful and that we successfully gave the player the reward. Oh wait, that's right. We were trying to give the player a tool, right? I completely forgot about that. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll get our tool. We'll use get service storage dot tool, and then we'll clone it. And then all we have to do is make a reference to our character and parent the tool. Actually, not the character, to the player. Parent the tool to the player's backpack. So tool parent player dot backpack. So what we're doing is we're referencing our tool, which we have inside server storage here, right? So we get server storage and we reference our tool and we clone it, which just basically duplicates the tool and stores it inside this variable. And then we take that tool and set its parent to our player's backpack, which is where a player's tools are stored for the player's inventory. And that will just give the player their tool, right? So if that's successful, then we'll tell Roblox that we successfully gave the player the reward for purchasing the dev product. And what we'll want to do is, otherwise, we'll do, we could have a warn here to kind of print out the error. So receipt or dev product process failed. And then what we can do is give it the result of our P call to kind of give it the error. And we could also put the receipt info in here too. And that way we can identify it a little bit easier with the receipt info. And obviously, if it doesn't work, what we want to do is return product purchase decision dot purchase not processed yet, and it'll give you a description here. The purchase request has not been sent, has been sent but not yet processed. So it pretty much tells Roblox that it hasn't properly been made. So like obviously it failed, right? And I believe the way this works is whenever the player tries to join your game again, it will trigger this function a second time to try and give them the reward a second time. And it'll keep trying that until it gets purchase granted as the return, right? So that's kind of how that works. It should hopefully make sense. There's a few more things for dev products. I'm not really going to go over them in this video. You can find them on the API on create.roblox.com, and there's nothing really, anything that I missed out on. This is really like the meat and potatoes of it, right? So this has already been an 18-minute video. I'm kind of sad that it took me this long. I don't know why my videos have been getting so long. But what I wanted to do is have you like make like a little currency purchase system where like you have leader stats and you can buy different amounts of coins for your leader stats kind of thing. So obviously you should know how to make leader stats. So if you want to make a script on your own, I can give you like a challenge to basically make a leader stat script. So your leader stat scripts will only have like one value, and that'll obviously be like coins or like cash, something like that. And what you'll want to do is maybe make a few dev products, maybe like 2 or 3, maybe like 20 if you want, I don't know. And have each dev product give a player a different amount of currency each time like a player purchases it, right? And what you can do, well, yeah, that's pretty much it, right? Like you have a few buttons on the player's screen. They click one, it like buys maybe like 200 coins. They click another, it gives them 500 coins, that kind of thing. And yeah, so that's what kind of my challenge. You can pause the video, try and make it yourself if you want, and I'm gonna go over how I would make it like right now. So what I'm gonna do first off is I'm going to add maybe another dev product, and this one can maybe be like 250 Robux. I probably should have named them and gave that one, and I copied that ID, so I'm gonna go back and get that ID real quick. This one's 250, so I'm going to copy that ID. And outside of my local script, I'm going to actually move this to the screen UI because we're going to have multiple buttons here that we want to handle. So I'm going to name this one like, we can call this like bag of coins. Bag of coins, and then we can call this next one truck of coins, right? Because like in like games, usually there's like different little like icons, like you could buy like a truckload of coins or like a little bag of coins, whatever, right? You get the idea. Okay, so then what we'll need to do is make two buttons. So I'm going to duplicate this button and just move the second one up here, and this top one, what we'll do is call it bag of coins, and what we'll do is we'll call it very basic. I'm not going crazy here, right? Top one will be to purchase 100 coins, and the bottom one will be to purchase 250. I thought I capitalized the P here, but I don't know. Alright, so now all we need to do is reference our buttons inside the script. So what we'll do is script.parent.truck of, or we'll do bag of coins first because that's like the smallest one. I was putting one click, connect function, and then what we gotta do is mark it say service prompt product purchase, and we'll give it bag of coins, or I believe it's the player, local player. Oh boy, bag of coins. And you could do this a little bit better. Like you could have a for loop for connecting all the buttons to a function, and then just finding the matching ID in like a table or something like that if you wanted to, which would be a little bit more fancier. I'm not gonna go over that right now because I'm just trying to make it like a little simple and kind of speed it up so the video isn't like half an hour long. So here's our two functions. If they click the truck of coins button, then they'll get the truck of coins product, dev product, and if they click the other one, they'll get the bag of coins. And now what we need to do is create a leader stat script. So I'm gonna do that real quick. Get service players, player added, connect function. I don't know if this really needs to be in the video. It can be removed if my editor feels like it. I don't know, because this is like the 20th time I've gone over making a leader stat script in my videos. So we'll have a folder for leader stats, and obviously we need to name it leader stats without a capital L, because that's how Roblox recognizes it. And then what we need to do is parent it to our player. And last thing is make a coin value. Int value. And we name it the name we want it to show up on the leader stats board, which would be coins in this case. And we'll set its default value, or its parent needs to be the leader stats folder. And we can set its value to 0, but it's not really necessary, but I'll do it anyways. And then we'll name this leader stats handler. Bro, it's 24 minutes already? I'm losing my mind. Alright, we're going speedrun mode, guys. Alright, so now what we need to do is get both of our IDs. So I'll get them right here from our local script. And I'll make a folder called devproduct, or not a folder, table. And what we'll do is we'll get our IDs, which are kind of important here, and we'll set our IDs to be equal to the value that we're given. So the top one is equal to 100 and the bottom one will be 250. And we need to actually wrap these IDs in square brackets, so Roblox knows to recognize that as like an index of the table. I believe that's the right order. Bag of coins is first, truck of coins is second, right? Now all we need to do is, once the player prompts to purchase, what we need to do is get the players player dot leader stats dot coins dot value plus equals dev products. So we'll get our dev product table, and then all we have to do is index it with our product ID, which obviously, right, we have our two product IDs here as the two indexes of our table, and then that will give us the value that is matched with our ID, right? That's how we index our table correctly, right? And that's all we really have to do here. So we're going to go ahead and test it and see if it works. I just realized I forgot to test my last script, but knowing me, my scripts always work first try, so obviously it probably worked anyway. So I didn't even need to test it, honestly. You purchased developer product 1. Now you can see it clearly didn't work because I actually don't know what I'm doing. And the reason for that is because I don't know what I'm doing. I think the error here is you can't actually concatenate a string with a table, right? So what you can actually do is pass multiple arguments in the warn function, like this, with a comma, and that will actually allow you to do it anyways, and it'll just kind of combine it anyways. It'll print both of the things that you told it to, which is kind of useful. So I'm going to go ahead and try this again. Leader stats is not a valid player of... That's bullshit. Alright, so I forgot how to spell leader stats. I gave it a capital L because, you know, I'm used to shit actually being named like correctly instead of like lowercase. I don't even know why Roblox decided to do it that way. So we're going to go ahead and try and test this again because obviously my scripts always work first try. You can see I clearly got my 100 coins. Now, say I want to buy 250 coins, big ballin', we're going to get a whole ass truckload of coins. Alright guys. Boom, look at all those coins. I am literally the Andrew Tate of Roblox, guys. I swear to God. Alright. Honestly, that's pretty much it for this video. Hopefully it helped you with dev products. It's 27 minutes long. I hate my life. Thanks for watching.